Meeting to order, and please stand for the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Sometimes. All right. I sent, did everyone get the agenda I sent electronically? Because I got a
Yep.
feeling that this is a crowd that would prefer to save trees and not have a stack of papers to carry around.
Yeah, I read them.
I'm old-fashioned, but. And second of all, did everyone get the minutes? I did send them twice because Tony caught a misspell, so I corrected that and
Small.
sent that back out.
Yep.
So. Does anyone have any corrections or changes, other than, like, the one that I already had done? I'll look for that weird quote mark, I can get rid of
It's
it.
all the way at the bottom.
Oh.
It's just a loan.
There's, so the second to last one, there's a double quote after, so it says items for next regular,
Business.
yeah, there's a double quote right there.
Oh,
Does it change
okay.
the context?
No,
I
It's
don't
just,
see how.
it's just
no.
empty. I wouldn't have mentioned it if he hadn't asked.
Yeah, what did I put that there for? Okay, I'll fix that. Other than that, is there anything else? If not, I entertain a motion to accept the minutes.
So moved?
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any corrections, changes? Any further discussion? None? On the motion to accept the minutes for June 14th, 2018. Tony?
Yes.
Amy?
Yes.
Lee?
Yes,
Mike?
Yes.
Will?
Yes.
Yes. The next item is the invoice for the VADAR license for the advisory committee. The invoice date was July 1, 2018. I did hand this out at a previous meeting, and I sent it out electronically.
Yep.
It has to be paid by its due date is the 31st. It's in the amount of $700. I have the payment sheet for the account all filled out. After a vote, I will sign it and then pass it around for the rest of the committee to sign. So, is there a motion to pay this bill for $700? And this comes out of we do have funding for it, line item for $700 under purchase of services.
So moved.
Second?
All right. A motion to pay by Amy, seconded by Mike Curry. Anyone with discussion?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
Advisory Board has a bylaw, Article 4, Section 5, and I'll read that. In the discharge of its duties, such committee shall be free access to all books and records and accounts, bills, vouchers, on which money has been or may be paid from the town treasury. Officers, boards, committees of the town shall, upon request, furnish said committee with facts, figures, and other information pertaining to these several activities. Why did I bring that up? I don't like wasting taxpayers' money. The reason that it's here, and let me just say one thing about what the administrator said. We're the only town in Massachusetts that has access to this. Why is that? Think about that. Why do we are the only community that have access? We have asked before, and it was saying, well, we're busy. Well, we're paying an accountant almost $70,000. We're paying a treasurer collector approximately $60,000 for 38 hours. They now have assistants. These people are there using VADAR on a regular basis, day in, day out. They have standard reports. Standard reports don't take that long. We've already, in my estimation, we've wasted about $1,300. $1,000 last year in training for us, and another $300 for the license for the rest of the year. For us to take and end up paying another $700 for us to have access when we have a bylaw that we should enforce and not cover up the fact that there's another issue here about why we don't get stuff. The issue is with the finance team. That needs to be corrected rather than throwing money away from the taxpayers. We shouldn't be doing that. This town has a habit of throwing money away, and I can't stand by and say that we should be doing this. That's my input as to we shouldn't be paying for this license for VADAR. We should be pushing back on them and saying, we want this information when we do get it. You don't see a BVA yet. Hopefully we'll get one at the end of the year once. In the administrator's report that was issued today, the accountant said that she was working on that. We should see that. They should be closing the books on the 15th. By the end of the month, we should be able to take and see the end of the year for last year. And with a little bit of luck, we should be seeing July, which is in an early part of August, the August one. Those are reports that are standard. Within those reports, they've actually dumbed down the amount of accounts. We used to have an account for a lot of other things. Now we only have about 5 accounts per department. Why? Well, that was to end up cutting down on the mistakes. This committee pointed out a lot, over the last 2 years, we pointed out a lot of issues that we were concerned about. Pushing them back and saying, hey, you need to take a look at this. If we had not received that and asked those questions, we wouldn't know that there was errors. By collapsing down the number of account numbers, you don't see the errors. It's all folded in. That's one way to take it, end up hiding issues or errors. I mean, I don't think that's what we want to do with our finances. We want to take it, end up seeing where our money's going to, down to the very thing. We talked about this about miscellaneous a while back, and we should know where the money's going. Well, we should know where the money's going for all these accounts and what we're spending on.
Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
So, is the accountant and the collector willing to produce the reports we want for our viewing?
We have asked, and they said they were busy. My thing is that we meet every 2 weeks. If we see a report, we end up asking the next day or two.
Mm-hmm.
That gives them almost 10 days to 2 weeks to get that up. You can't tell me that they're that busy that they can't end up issuing what we need for information on that period of time.
Since I haven't had a chance to go on VADAR yet, but is there information in there that you can find just searching around?
Yes.
So if I understand what you're saying, is you're saying the town already has access to VADAR. We could, if we just ask for the reports we need, we could save the $700 by not having an advisory
That's
committee
correct.
license.
Because it's redundant.
Right.
Well, it's a license issue. We're paying for an additional license for VADAR,
Yeah.
but Will's point is it's redundant because we should already have access
Right.
because we should this board has a mandate to
Right.
be able to have free access. So how would you do that? You'd ask for a report that you want.
Do we know how many licenses the town pays for VADAR? And does it limit
Assessor.
users?
The accountant, treasurer, collector,
Assessor.
I said the assessor.
Is the number of users of that license limited, like you buy one for the accountant, one for the collector, or,
Probably.
They're-
so is there an enterprise type
They
license?
both read and write those, for those
Yeah, ours is
departments.
only read only.
Okay,
And part of the,
Okay.
one of the, several people that all this came about was, we were asking for information and it was taking time. Because, it's easy to say, we should be able to get a report in, something in 2 days. Realistically, the same thing goes with, a public record. If you want a copy of this, contract or something, it should be, in this day and age, you should get it easy, but they have 10 days.
I'm not here day to day, so I don't know what their
Yeah.
workload is to produce that report. If it's a report that they already produce and we just want a copy of it, that's a different issue, but if it's something special for us to request,
Right. I imagine, Jeff sitting there and actually, putting on filters and otherwise and like having specialized reports. That's what I thought
yeah.
was the impetus when we talked about this last month was, hey, this is a good thing for us, this is how it's used or otherwise. But I agree with Will. I mean, if we don't need the license and we can request the reports, then yay, we saved the town $700.
And
But we can request the reports, can we get them? And I think
don't
that's
know.
the key.
that's,
And how much data do we need? Like, are we gonna be sending reports requests every day? Or is this like standard, hey, once a month I'd like to actually see the balance sheet or something?
and you can actually go in, and I haven't played around with it that much, but when the trainer was here, you can gather and catch as much detail as you wanna go looking. And once you learn your way around it, it becomes easier. Cause you can actually go through, almost like look at the weekly warrant in there. And like I said, it's not as simple as just, pointing on something. You do have to go find it and fill in the parameters and stuff. But once you get used to it, like we were asking questions of the trainer, hey, can you look at this for Templeton? And he went, yeah, it's right there. So, there are some neat stuff you can do with it. And part of the thing was, we were asking for stuff at a meeting. You'd have a meeting and you put the request in, say the next day, or I can email it in tonight. The account doesn't come in until Monday. And then the next time we're gonna meet is August 2nd. And we may not see it then. Like the June budget versus actual, I'm gonna send an email reminding Carter, we're supposed to get, you keep promising that we're gonna get those monthly. Where is June's? End of the year one, realistically, we probably won't see till the middle of August. By the time they close that out, because they're gonna be, we're asking for this stuff, and the bylaw says this. And it's happened in the past. The one in 16, we got, I think, the third week of August.
Yep.
I don't know why, it's just, there are a lot of things they can say going on. Closing out the books, dealing with encumbrances and this and that. They have to do a balance sheet. They have to get the Schedule A done, so they can get that paperwork filed, because I know they're gonna work and push on getting that to the DOR, so the certified free cash can be certified. And if there's any catches or glitches in the books, then they're gonna fix that, because, regardless of what a bylaw says, they have a schedule. The town administrator, to get a special town meeting at a certain date, and they wanna use that, because the state budget's not even passed yet. Here we are, coming up at the beginning of a new fiscal year already, the end of the time where towns can mess around with can adjust and straighten, balance their budget, to do their balance sheet, to do this. And this is information that's on the DLS website. You can check and see how much free cash has been done, how many communities have their paperwork done on time, which all transforms to getting the tax recapitulation sheet done. And the accountant has input, the treasurer has input, the town clerk has input, the Board of Assessors, so the tax rate can be set before the new calendar year. And, because that is, the DOR likes to see that done. And if you're a good town, your books are in order and everything, it happens in that order. Then the tax bills can be sent out, and as soon as the tax bills are sent out, money starts coming into the town.
The
So
reason
having
I-
said
Can
all
we do
of
our
that,
job without it? I mean, that's what we're facing. Can we do our job without it?
we have in the past, but
Yep.
like I said, the method, the thinking behind getting the access was so we could look at it when we wanted to.
What's the ramifications if you let the license lapse for like 3 or 4 months? And to see if we need something, if the town that, or the department that we need it from is responsive to get it to us in a timely manner?
If, like I said, the invoice is due by the end of July.
To maintain.
Right, to maintain the
Access.
license. How, strict is VADAR, I do not know
Well,
on that.
I know, I think it's reactive, so if we let it expire and then we're like, wow, we really needed that information, we're not getting what we had, it's in our light on, we're talking about money that's allocated for this board,
I
for
mean,
this committee.
Does VADAR just say, okay, let's round it off, we're like
Your
about
credentials are
$50 a month.
revoked, and then you can't
No,
get
I
in.
understand that they're revoked, but then in 4 months, we decide, you know what, we'd like to have VADAR access. Do we just
Uh-huh.
write them a check for $500 at that time or whatever the
Yeah,
the
they
delta?
re-invoice us, we vote to approve it, and
Yeah, we,
it's just
yeah,
money.
we paid
It's
for
our
half a
money.
year.
But I mean, your $700
sorry.
doesn't become, they don't put a penalty on for being late or whatever.
They may.
They didn't last year, it was for a part, yeah. The reason I bring up just VADAR is that you also have from the treasurer collector, debt schedule. The debt schedule is not on VADAR. We've had that as an issue. The issue really to me is, we ask for something, it should be able to, can get that within a 10-day period. Just like if you were to come in and request data or any information, you should be able to get that. So from one meeting to the next, we should be able to get that response. And it shouldn't be, I don't have time.
So how much time, with the two of you being the holdovers, how much time did you use VADAR last year?
0. One time, and then
Paul was gonna do
Yeah.
a demonstration and show it, and it was on a Wednesday meeting, and we started at 6:30, and we did our minutes and stuff, and he got it, screen set up, and they were shutting down at 7 o'clock for maintenance, so we didn't get to finish. And that was, when was that? Just before town meeting, I think.
that was about a month or so before time.
Okay.
Because that's how we had planned on doing it, because we only want to, one computer could be on at a time.
Right.
So we were gonna look at stuff, if you want to come to a meeting, you could set up a screen.
Sure.
One individual can put it, and we could look at stuff like right now. Like if you want to do a transfer that night, we had an expenditure report that was 2 or 3 weeks old. And that's another thing. You could, real time, at tonight's meeting, put it on the screen, or just look at a laptop and say, the balance as of yesterday it's not.
Conflicted.
But
3,000.
truthfully, something in that case, when a transfer is brought to us, I think it's incumbent upon the Board of Selectmen and the TA to give us the most up-to-date information
Yeah,
they
that's
have
our
on the
assumption.
accounts for a transfer.
That's correct.
And they absolutely should. It should be, before they bring it to us, go down to the accountants, okay, how much do I have in that
And
account?
if you look at our policy, it says that they should be providing the data right then and there as to why they want the transfer. That's,
It also suggests that somebody should come here and be here to ask the
Right.
questions, but as you saw,
Yeah, well, I mean, the
doesn't
four of us
happen.
here, we're giving up something we've never used or otherwise, so we're looking to you two to say, how, our assumption is that we're gonna get the information that we need when we need it, and have minimal restriction to that,
Yep.
especially based on the bylaw that you're referencing.
Yep.
But from you and you, it sounds like real-time data, I can totally go for that, like, pull up the information, hey, someone asks a quick question. But Will's saying, we're gonna be fiscally responsible. They already have, the people who need the licenses have it. If we need the information, then we're gonna get it. So what do you, I mean, between you two,
I-
guide us.
That's why I'm bringing it up. I don't think that we should be wasting the town's money. This is a Band-Aid to the fact that we weren't getting it from them before. The bylaws is very specific. I mean, bylaws are there that they can end up being specific, that they can end up having some sense of order.
So when we
they-
request
then
for
don't-
information.
Don't bring it in, that means that there's an issue. The issue is correct that issue. Don't end up throwing money at it, and I don't like to throw $700 away of taxpayers' money to take and correct an issue that we can't get it from them, and they're saying they're busy.
If you recall the proposed bylaw change that Tony got up on town meeting floor and spoke about, if you look at that change proposal in
days.
totality, there were gonna be a time period,
Yep.
just like the public records, they were gonna give those selectmen or the accountant, if you request it,
5 days.
you know, you could request it on Monday, cause we're gonna meet on Thursday.
Yep.
And they would say, well, you can't have it until the following week,
Right.
because that was the bylaw change.
Right, 5 days,
5
It was-
business days.
5 business
So
days.
if we requested it today,
Yep.
they wouldn't see it till Monday. We wouldn't have it until the following Monday.
Is it,
That's
so is
Because
it
there's no Friday, no Saturday, no Sunday, obviously.
Right.
Is it 5
And then they'd see
business
5 business days. It's
from
not
the date of the
calendar-
request or from when they
From
receive
when
it?
they receive it.
Okay.
So they can't receive it tonight. If we requested tonight, they can't see it, they can't receive it. They wouldn't receive it until Monday. I think something else that's important to know, and I don't like to throw money away either. However, I think this becomes about information received in a timely fashion. Already being on this committee since May, the most recent data I received was mid-June. Is that true? When we pulled that report,
Which
the
one?
last, and it didn't contain up-to-date budget to actual, when we were doing the transfers earlier.
Right.
So I've not seen anything truly up-to-date.
We did get, when the transfers did come in for the highway stuff, the administrator did give us up to the date to that
Right.
Monday.
Yeah, it was-
Right,
That
just
was-
the one page.
That's correct.
Right, so I think in light of that information and in light of what we've experienced in our very limited time on here, I think the VADAR license is a good idea for fiscal 19 to maintain our access to that information. And I think for fiscal 20, we should be questioning and we should be pushing back on these policies. The only reason I think it's a good investment is because you guys just received the training, so the training is less than a year old. And that was, you said $1,300,
1,000 for the training
and then
and
300 for the access. So now we need a full year's worth of access. I think,
And the only
given
person,
the current atmosphere, if you will, it might be a smart investment for us as a unit to have access to that for pulling it
the
up
only
in a
person that
meeting.
attended that training was Jeff,
Right,
and some other members which are no longer with us.
right,
Which means that the rest of the board is not trained.
right.
So Lee, you've gone in and,
Yep.
and looked at it, what's your take?
So being able to access it, being able to generate the reports is pretty easy. Knowing where to go to find stuff, that's gonna take some work. Things are not, it's not blatantly clear where anything is.
That's right.
So you basically have to dig through, once you know where you're looking, then it'd be fine, but that might be something that as a group, maybe the next meeting or two, maybe we do set up, I've got a projector at home I can bring, if there's not one here. We can set it up, we can all, as a group, take a look through, use your existing knowledge of that in order to kind of train us a little bit more. And then, once we have that level of expertise, then it's just gonna be up to each one of us to go in on our own time and take a look at the data that we're trying to get out of it.
And that was, and to be honest with the training, it was about, what was it, a couple, 3.5 hours or so.
Mhm.
And it was mainly showing us how to download
Yep.
the Citrix, put it in.
Oh.
And he went around and, showed you how to find stuff, how
Okay.
you could, change the dates, so you could look at like last year's stuff,
Yep.
and this and that. and the end result, though, at the end, he did say the best way to learn it was to go in there and play around with it, and, you know, type, you know, you want a report, look at this, look here. There was a couple things he showed where to go, and I can go in there and bounce around, and I'll probably bring it back up. But it's as good, like I said, you can go in there, and once you find where, and I don't know if that is a VADAR thing, or if that is the people using it, how they set it, you know, where they put stuff.
I think, I
Well,
have
you
to
can
agree
go
with
in
what
there.
Amy said. I think this is a new body. We've got the line item for it. I totally agree with Will, but I think that's a good compromise to basically maintain using it and see where we can go from. You know, whether we take it out of the line item, because this is, you know, part of the budget, and we can yield the money back. I agree with both of you, but I think we should hang on to it for a year.
I'm kind of leaning that way to allow us to individually look into VADAR to see,
Right.
and then also.
I
can-
gotta
can
get up
we-
to speed with the
Can we,
rest of these guys.
can we set up, you know, with the accountant and the people we need the information from, just try to build some bridges and get the information in
Yeah.
a timely manner, but
Good
until we
relationships
can
so
build
you can
those
ask for it and
bridges,
get it.
I think we need to have access to the data. I agree, I agree 100% with Will that if we're getting the data we need, then we don't need the license, but
Yep.
it sounds like you haven't been getting the data you need in a timely manner.
No, and I
Well, we're
was-
asking for additional data, not what's on the report.
But so it's just them generating another report,
That's right.
and they're not giving that to you because they're too busy.
And it was a lot of, some of the argument for the license and everything was the timing and getting stuff. It's like, how much do you wanna go back and forth arguing about, I want this,
Right.
can we get this?
And then possibly after a year, we sit there and say, okay, we haven't wanted a lot of data. We're go to them and use the fiscal analogy of, we don't need to spend $700 for 4 hours total of a year of your time. So if you could just support us in this, we could save the town $700. So,
I'm good.
yeah.
And if you go and look on the town administrator's report, they're looking for, there's no longer an assistant town accountant. That's a chair that is empty.
My understanding is they filled it.
Hmm?
My understanding is that they filled it, even though he talked about it.
What, on the
Assistant-
meeting, meeting on the 11th? So he talked about the advertisement, but he already
Right, but
had
it was
somebody
after,
in.
it's after that, they already had somebody.
Well, have they accepted the position, or there's a difference between whether it's filled and whether an offer's gone out?
Assistant town accountant.
Same one that's assistant to the treasurer.
Yep.
And Phillipston.
But that was, like I said, it was talked about at the meeting and
Want
it's
'em
in
all.
his report today still.
Well, we got a motion and a second out
Second,
there.
yes.
I think it's good, very good discussion.
Arguing, I mean, discussing things is always a good thing.
It is.
I- Even
I
if
was
it
all
gets,
over the
even if you
map
get a
on
little
that one.
heated, you disagree, that's a good thing, because generally,
Yep.
if you disagree, you start making points on it, that gives, I think stuff comes out that you might not come out or you didn't think about, and then you start bringing other things to, points of view, or different ways to look at the thing that, you might not come about if you don't have a good, strong, boisterous discussion on things. And I do wholeheartedly agree that we shouldn't have to do this, but the reason I originally favored doing it was, one, with the timing thing, and two, I just wanted to go in and see what's in there and to be able to check. Just check the information I'm getting, because just because I'm getting a report from an accountant doesn't mean that it's 100% correct. I'm not pointing any fingers, not trying to say anything, it's just, you know, an error can be in the report, and if all you have is that report to look, and you'll have no way to check it.
Right.
Yeah, so just that I'm on record, Will, I completely agree with you, but everything else that everyone said, at least for the time being, yeah, I think that's the proper course of action, so.
Yeah, we're getting our legs underneath us.
Yeah.
I mean, the budget was appropriated, and
Right.
you are new members who
Yep.
came after, I mean, it was put forward and voted at town meeting and stuff, and to give it a shot. I mean, if it doesn't work, then, you know, next year we just don't put it in
Yeah,
there.
and I'd like to make the point too, I appreciate you bringing that up, because that thought never would have even crossed my mind. I thought we're just approving something that we had access to, and,
Yeah.
okay, so,
Yeah.
again,
Yeah,
things
I
that I
100%
need to
agree
learn
with you.
about what's going on, okay.
I 100% agree with Will also.
But again, we are supposed to get because we asked for this and asked for it, and the town administrator had said, on several occasions, and he's said it to me in an email, if you're not getting these, you know, monthly, because they had gone to quarterly. They used to be weekly, then they went to quarterly, and we pushed back against that. We say, you know, month is stretching it, but a quarter is, you know, waiting 3 months to get one report to go back. That's a lot, lots can happen. We'd like it monthly. So he agreed to that, but again, I got to send another email, hey, we didn't get June's yet. Okay?
Right.
We're supposed to get these monthly. You keep telling this committee, through me, or people that we've even had a vote for someone else to contact, you know, and ask these questions. Paul Grubb, the former clerk, did it. And, yeah, we're gonna get them monthly, but you don't have them in your email. So,
Okay.
and I can send it tonight, and we won't see it till next week, because that's when the account will be back working. And, you know, we should have it. It's the middle of July. But again, you won't see the end of the year one probably till first, second week of August. It's just, because there's a lot of stuff that's gotta be, you know, closed out, and
Mhm.
that's just the way government works. Not efficient, and could be worse. We could be spending $10,000 for a toilet seat cover.
Right.
I thought them days were gone back when Ronald Reagan or when Bill Clinton was in office. I thought all that stuff was going out the window, but apparently not. So, on the motion and a second to pay $700 for the VADAR license. Is there any more discussion on that motion? And that was a good discussion. That was. All right, seeing none. Tony,
Yes.
Amy,
Yes.
Lee,
Yes.
Mike?
Yes,
Mr.
Absolutely
Spriggs?
not.
And yes.
we'll get there.
It only still counts for one, though.
I knew what his vote was, I just
I
had
knew
to
what it
ask.
was, too. He's got a great point.
Yeah, absolutely.
And if things work by design and how they should work, there would be no need, but we would have access without a license, but no, the
We're
inefficiency.
wasting enough money as it is, because the TA did not act in a correct manner on the vision statement, the vision software and a computer for the assessor,
Okay.
which is our input document for all your assessments for taxes.
Okay, one more thing on the agenda, and then I'll have a couple information things, and then I will ask for agenda items for our next meeting, which I believe will be August 2nd. Committee vacancy. As I think I stated a couple meetings ago, Mike Yvard has chosen to go to the Veterans Advisory Board. And I have I'm glad to see him that he just didn't say, well, you know, I'm not gonna do anything. He picked something that he felt he was better suited for, interested more. I'm just glad to see that he's participating. It's one more resident, and we have a lot of committees with a lot of vacancies, and sorry that he didn't choose this one, but I'm glad that he chose one, and one that I really, it's really important and I really support, so I'm glad that he chose one. That being said, I sent an email to the moderator, even though it was past the 30-day time, to see if he had any other people interested, or if he had any more interest forms. He said, I'll get back to you on that. And it's been a couple, going on almost 3 weeks. So I emailed Holly Young in the Selectman's office. She said she had no active interest forms at the time. Mike had indicated that in between, we were waiting on if Mike Buvard was going, he was kind of, I guess he was thinking about which way he was gonna go. So in the time that he was not here, Mike had indicated that he had someone who he thought might be interested. And then I'll let Mike speak to that.
Well, I have a friend that does finance for the military. He lives over on Victoria, and I had asked him, and I think he's on the fence. And I think his wife might be interested as well. So I put a call in to them today to see if they're still interested, and, kind of give them the flavor, the background, and, that we need them. And hopefully one of them chooses to come on board.
So likewise, just in case, if anyone has a friend or someone they think may, because under the bylaw, we can appoint a person to fill an empty seat until the next annual town meeting, which would be next May. And again, that was something that was proposed to take out of the advisory bylaw. Had Tony not got up and spoke about that bylaw the way he did, it might have passed and the bylaw might have gotten changed. I think his voice standing up there was part of the reason that it didn't go anywhere, which is a good thing, because I think the bylaw we should at least be consulted. If you're gonna change the rules affecting this committee, we should at least be consulted.
Should be.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I'd like to weigh in on that. In the past, we've come to this particular position a number of times, and it's always been on the committee to find somebody. And we've gone through the same motions as Jeff has already gone through, talking to the moderator, also going through Holly. We have a big problem in this community, and if we don't end up finding somebody, we're gonna be somebody short. The handwriting is on the wall. I mean, it took us one particular year, all the way till November, to find somebody. I mean, we're actively going out. I mean, all the members had talked with people. We presently have 14, of which this committee is one, that has openings. There's 13 other committees or boards that have openings. So what's the likelihood that somebody's going to end up picking this particular one if we don't go out and solicit for ourselves? That's why I was always a proponent to end up keeping that in the bylaw, because I saw this time and time again as an issue in the 6 years I've been on.
And the moderator doesn't have anyone, I mean, I'll get back to you. And the selectman's office doesn't have anything on file, so if this committee doesn't do it,
Yeah.
we'll sit here with.
And we've always gone to the administrator, the moderator, and Holly first before we ended up having somebody.
See if
Because
they
if they
have-
had somebody, we would bring them in. I mean, it's a lot easier if they already have somebody lined up or have something else, so we don't have to do the searching.
It seems like there maybe is a little problem of getting the word out to the town that there's these vacancies, because it is on the town website, but if you don't go to the town website, you're not gonna know.
Yeah,
And
no
if you
one
don't
goes
go to
to
the town
websites.
meeting, what's that?
No one goes to websites anymore.
They don't?
I mean, that sounds like a ridiculous statement, but it's kind of true. We go to it because that's where our business is,
Right.
but people aren't browsing or something. Someone doesn't wake up and say, hey, I'm gonna pour myself a cup of coffee and go to the Templeton1.org website.
Well, and that's sort of my point is,
Yeah,
I wonder
people
what's going
aren't
on
doing
there,
that,
yeah.
so they don't know that the openings are there, someone that may wanna get involved.
Yeah.
So it's kind of word of mouth.
People
I
don't
think-
even go to it to find out when the town offices are open. I've seen people come in, because I've gone to the veterans person, and they're coming in and they're thinking they're going to go to the assessor or the selectman on a Friday. And how long we've been closed on a Friday?
2012, 13, something like that.
Yeah,
So, yeah, as a matter of fact, 2013, then Fridays off. So, like I said, I know Mike has a couple, but if, you know, if you, and it will be, we'll have to talk about it, or maybe somebody will see it on, you know, TV, but it's historically been, if the committee, if we don't get after it, it will just be a six-member committee with one opening the rest of the year. It's too bad too, but it's not just advisor, it is,
I'm feeling like, I think we can get somebody. I think, you know, again, Will, you may be the conscience of this board at this point, because you're echoing the sentiment that I think that we're feeling. The community needs to reassess itself. All these vacancies that we have, we need we need new blood. We need people to actually invest in their community. I agree with you. It's how we get that message out, the marketing plan.
when you talk to some of these people and they don't want to get involved because of how the town is
Yeah.
being managed.
but,
I mean,
That's
I
the
wouldn't think I
mistake.
end up being nice about it,
Yeah.
but and basically, some people don't want to get involved because they see that if they stand up and they say something, they're going to be retribution against them. I mean, I hear that time and again from folks.
but it's,
And that's feedback even from other people that I've talked to. They've gone to somewhere else and said, well, I talked to this person and they don't want to even speak up because they're afraid they're gonna get some pushback and retribution. That's not how it should be in government. You can end up still having discussions and not agreeing and still moving ahead.
but even people you see people at the selectmen's meeting, but there's not the discussion. And some of that, I mean, comes from the Board of Selectmen wanting to get our business done in a timely manner, but that's the Board of Selectmen's meeting to me that's the people's meeting. Other than town meeting, that's a place where you should be able to go and raise your hand and ask a question and comment on, and I used to like some people that would come, you never knew what they were gonna ask. It might not be on the agenda, it might not be something you can help them with, it might not even be in your wheelhouse. You have to go here or there, but they should have the opportunity to get up, and the selectmen should be willing to listen. And just like if someone comes here and asks a question, as a chairman, what do you want? If I can help you, I'll help you. If I can't, I'll try to point you in the direction. But people should be able to go to meetings of their government and ask and speak and we're not talking about that. That's not on the agenda. No, I said we're not talking about that, leave. No. Listen to them and then explain, look, I can't answer your question tonight, I'll get that for you.
Yeah, I agree.
Somebody, the individual came to a selectmen's meeting, he went on and on about something, and I finally told him, I said, look, that's a thing for town meeting floor. We can't make that, we can't help you with that even if we wanted to. That's a town meeting issue. But you answer their question and you try to help them out. But I think too many times people go, especially the selectmen's meeting, and I think that's where it just trickles down to the people thinking, why go to any committee, because I'm just gonna, that's how it's gonna be.
Yeah. Jeff,
And you wanna get business done, I understand that. But if you're running for selectmen, it should not be to see how fast I can get out of a selectmen's meeting. I know people, it shouldn't take 5 hours, or you shouldn't be there till midnight. Well, guess what? Sometimes, if there's people there and they wanna ask things and you wanna have a true, good, open government, it's gonna take time. And if you're there just to see how fast you can get in and out, maybe you shouldn't run for selectmen, maybe you should go do something else. That's the way I feel personally. If somebody was here, if one of these ladies that are sitting here wanted to ask something about it, Okay, what? Well, I really can't, that's not really our job, but this is where you should go, this is how you can try, this is where you can look here, here, and here. And this is maybe who you should try to talk to. And if you give me a contact, I'll dig some thing in, if I can help you out more, I'll do that for you. That's how I think the government should work. Unfortunately, that doesn't seem the way it is, and I believe it starts at the selectmen's meetings.
I think they're doing a good job. You know, they've changed their opening statement, they've got public comments, you know, in the beginning. What I think the failure is, you know, they have an agenda, and they go through their things.
Right.
Is it prescribed by a warrant? Their
No.
agenda? No.
No.
But anyway, they have an agenda. People that come in and bring new things, they should not have the expectation that something's gonna get fixed right then and there. However, just like you said, they should immediately address it to say, thank you, we're not aware of that.
Right.
We'll put this on the agenda for the next meeting, and hopefully we can, you know, address that within that amount of time. If people saw that occurring, they would go with an expectation of not fighting or screaming and storming out of the room because they didn't get what they wanted. That would be, like I said, I think they're getting there, I think they're halfway there. If I saw that occur during their meetings, I would feel much better about it.
And that's, you know, what I think is, like I said, is lacking. And, because you can go to the website and see all
Responsive
the
government
documents and
is
all of
what
this
you're
on
saying,
here.
yeah.
But it's to the point now where it seems like, you know, we have business, we have to get it done in a timely manner. They said it at
Yeah.
one of the workshops, it was saying at one of their workshops, you know, we can't take all these
Right.
questions and this, because we gotta do this. They don't do it at the Gardner City Council meeting, you know, and if they don't like me, well, they can, you know, throw me out in 3 years. Well, we don't have to wait 3 years to throw you out. But that's not how it should be. It isn't a city of Boston, you know, it's a small town, it's a small town government, and the Board of Selectmen is the face of the town, whether you know, like it or not, but when you're on the Board of Selectmen, that's what it is, to me. And you should take and entertain all the questions. If you wanna do it after the agenda's open, say, hey, does anybody have any questions, any comments, any of this, any of that? What? If somebody raises their hand while you're talking on something, what's your question? If it's not specific to that, tell them, we'll recognize you at the end of the meeting. But it's,
If I can add to that, in the 6 years that I've been on, this committee, and I'm glad to see that there was plenty of dialogue since you folks are new coming on, discussion, the way we've had it. It seems that we're the only committee that I can truthfully say, over the 6 years that I've been, at least in this position and even before, is that we've always had a discussion. Whether or not we all agree on something, we've had very, very good discussions, down to the point of listening to all the stuff. You don't see that and it should happen at the selectmen's meeting. There should be some dissent within them. Even if they have some dissent, when they go to vote, if they want to they can vote one way or the other. At least they've had a discussion, they've had some dissension, and they've come to consensus as to what they want to do as a board. And I think that's what happens on this committee. To me, I've seen that in the 6 years. And I'm glad that this committee at least does the thing that I would expect to happen throughout government.
So I can't speak to any other body, but the thing that I've seen so far that I greatly appreciate, and I think will continue as long as this body exists, is civility. And I think just in general, we're seeing all over the place a lack of it, not just in Templeton, but everywhere. And again, just based off of what I've experienced in the short time that I've been on this committee, there will definitely be discussion, but I think we can go about that in a very civil fashion and do what's right for the town.
and we have had some heated,
Oh, I'm sure.
discussions,
Yeah.
advisory committee, and disagreements, I mean, strong disagreements, but
But
at
that's
the
it.
end of the thing, we had our vote.
Yep.
And I mean, at the end of the meeting, it was, I mean, I just view this particular item this way, and you view it that way, and we,
Well, early on, when I first got on the first year, we ended up having a discussion about the conservation agent. And there was a discussion about digging into that and reporting to the selectmen. I was one of the dissenters. The person that was sitting next to me says, well, we voted that they can end up doing this. And I says, yeah, I know. And I says, I want, and this was the secretary, please write a thing to the selectmen that this is what we're gonna end up doing. He thought I was not going to end up recognizing the vote, even though I didn't disagree with what was being said. We moved on.
So,
Do we need to sign that,
Yeah, we need to
Vadar?
sign that, Veda.
Oh, okay.
Will started to talk about the vision in this week's town administrator report, just for some information. And I have another piece that I'm going to have on the next agenda, our agenda for our next meeting. And I have a couple things that were brought up at our workshop, and if anybody has anything else. In the assessor's report, she talks about their regular meeting this past Tuesday. They went over the funding for a new computer and their vision upgrade after finding out on June 25th, the original funding source was no longer available. Apparently they're going to take that out of their reval budget that they usually build up over a period of time. Like, say, if they know what they're gonna need, like, just made up numbers, but if they needed like $100,000, instead of asking the town for $100,000 in 1 year, each year they put a certain amount of money in their reval fund, and now it's every 5 years they have to do revaluations. But since there was some change made somewhere, the way that they were told and the way capital planning and everything was in the budget book and the presentation, that software upgrade was gonna be paid for, it went away. And it went away this past March. So they are going to use their money in their budget, which they have in the reval fund, to pay for that. That fund will probably be zero, have a zero balance after they pay that. It was unexpected. As I said, they were told it was gonna be this way. I'll make a copy of that sheet. It's in the budget book presentation and all the meetings that we went to and stuff. But apparently back in March, that dollar amount was switched and funneled over to pay some of the increase, to put more money towards the redoing of Bridge Street paving. So that's one of those things that happens, and it wasn't publicized.
Did they
other
ask
than-
her? Did they ask her first?
No,
No.
she came back, she was on vacation, she was out for 3 weeks. 1 week was a conference, she was on 2 weeks vacation.
That's no good.
This was, heard about, and she came in on a vacation day to check it, and found out that that was the truth. So now, what do? You either go to the town, the Board of Selectmen, or you come to us through the reserve fund, or whatever, and the Board of Assessors met, her elected board, and they said, well, we do have some money in our budget that will cover it, and that's how they're gonna pay
Okay,
for it.
all right,
That
so
vote-
it was
that vote-
authorization I
But
was.
it's not,
that vote
that's
to-
not the funding source that
Right.
was intended to pay for that.
Right,
This is each year, they put money
a warrant
in
article.
that reval
Right,
account.
I
If you look
understand.
at it, it's on the warrant,
Yeah,
because in 2020, when they have to do their reval and the cost, instead of asking for that entire amount
Yep.
1 year up front, they put a little bit each
got
year
it.
to get ready for it.
my
Now
issue
they're
is that they
taking
had
that
money.
to pay for Vision
Is Luann?
software.
Is it Luann? So Luann had money to pay for a software upgrade, and it was in a line item that she believed would do that.
The funding source on March, at a meeting, decided not to take and fund it. She didn't find out until
That they couldn't fund it.
June, right, no, they didn't wanna fund it. They took the money and used it somewhere else.
Who did that?
That's my issue, is so money that she expected, like
You wanna know
whether it's a
who?
budget.
It was your light
The Light
board.
and Water Department.
Water.
It was originally in the assessor's budget
Right,
$20,000 to pay for a thing.
I'm following you
It
on
was
that.
referred to capital because it's over $10,000.
Okay.
And it has a
Yep,
lifetime.
yep.
And if you go in under the capital planning section of that big white binder, and it should be online, the online copy, it has the $20,000, light and water.
Mhm.
There's a table in there, and it has a lot of capital items and how it's gonna be funded. Well, apparently in March, the Light and Water Commissioners voted to take that $20,000. They had already said they were gonna put some money towards the repaving costs of Bridge Street, because their
But they took
their
the
office is on
28,000
there.
and
So,
and on top of that.
They took
No, they
the
took it-
other
they took it
20
away from the-
to help pay for
So
the
was it
engineering
their,
costs.
did they control that money? They said, we're
Yes.
gonna give it to this, they're gonna give it for the thing, and then they decided, you know what, we need it for this.
Yes. It's like the retained earnings.
I
But
don't
then
like
It's
didn't
the
rea-
surplus revenue.
I,
Right, we talked about the surplus revenue of the light and water before, during one of our workshops, I think we talked about where did that go or
Yeah,
whatever,
I'm still
so.
trying to.
This is
wrap
one
my
of
head
those
around that.
places where the money goes.
Yep.
So they're
Or was going to
independent,
go.
so they were able to have a vote in March.
Yep.
And they voted as their board to reallocate the money that should have gone to the town assessor for this vision project.
We're not using it for this project, we're gonna use it.
Would they
over
just
here.
changed their mind? We've got this 20,000 floating, this is where we were gonna put it, here's what I think we should do with it instead.
And how did
And
that
so,
not get
paving.
communicated
Right.
to the Board of Assessors?
Right, so now it's a communication issue really, because the the assessors have found themselves basically holding a bag.
And who
And-
is involved in
Right.
paving the roads?
Communication.
And what
Like-
department and who is
Well,
overseeing
follow
that
your budget.
department?
How
I
about
guess what
follow
I
the
don't-
budget? And if we're going to make that decision, I would like at least the person that was responsible for that budget line item to be consulted with prior to the transfer
And like I said, I will
or
get,
reallocation
I
or.
will get some of the
I don't like
background
the fact is
information.
if it's put into an account that technically would be controlled by the assessor's office,
Yeah, it doesn't sound like
they
that.
should not be allowed to
No.
take it out.
No, they didn't, it never made it to there, cause light
It
and
didn't
water.
go.
Okay. So
was
they
dividing it,
earmarked,
it was
they
pushing-
earmarked it for
right,
there.
right.
Okay.
They
So I
tagged it
will,
and then it never went
And
there.
Okay.
what's really critical about this is the first update to Vision in 16 years. They're moving it from Oracle to a Windows-based, and that's, like I said earlier, it's the front end of putting the valuations for your entire community in, so that when they go in, that's, you have the valuation, so you can end up setting the tax rate.
Sure. No, I understand that.
So, that is one item,
That's not a good practice. I'm not
this is
pointing fingers, but
this
it's not a good practice.
concerns, school funding and the vote downtown meeting
Got it,
floor.
thank you.
This is just for information, that the school committee certified their budget that was actually voted on town meeting. And the second is a letter from, the town administrator to the school committee about how the town is going to,
Pay the debt.
fund that debt service. You will notice that, it was CC'd to the Board of Selectmen, the treasurer collector,
Oh, I saw
the
your email on
accounting,
this.
Well, not to us,
but not to us.
interesting.
But there is great communication and inclusion and a working together attitude out of the
That's
Board of
sloppy.
Selectmen's office with regards to the
Yeah.
advisory
That's
committee.
sloppy. I'm not happy with that either.
So for our next meeting, which is August 2nd, because the 19th, which is the third Thursday, my understanding is Lee, Amy, and Tony, you would not be able to make the 19th,
No.
correct? So we wouldn't have a quorum, so I believe at the workshop, we said we wouldn't have that.
Right.
So a couple of
Okay,
things.
so nothing on the 19th, we're not meeting until the 2nd.
Right.
Okay.
Um, A couple of like I said, the assessors, funding source for vision, I'll gather up some information and have that so we can have further discussion, because it is a financial issue, how things go, so you could file that away for, the budget season.
Well, one of the options that they do have is end up taking out a stabilization in the fall town meeting, instead of using the reval.
I
Which puts-
believe the Board of Assessors have already voted to go that way.
Right, but there was also discussion about other sources.
So, a couple of the
So
things.
they didn't have to pull it out of revale.
That's
Do we know
correct.
how much? it
Because they're
was?
gonna have to take and double up on the reval instead of the 25 they usually ask.
That
They're
vision
gonna have to
software.
ask for 50 in order that they can make up for what they just pulled out.
You know, part of being fiscally responsible is following a budget. So if Light and Water makes a decision to reallocate the $20,000 that was, someone else was counting on, that causes the ripple effect all across there. So now, like, you know, what if, as a body, we say to the assessor's office, well, what if you go over to, you know, so-and-so's office and they have a surplus over there, or take it from there? Everyone winds up chasing everyone's tail and everyone else's accounts. I think an agenda item, I would love to be able to say, you know, that the finance handbook has like the checklist. You know, if you're an advisory committee member, these are the questions that you ask of your community.
That's correct.
It's to have that kind of assessment, you know, maybe we do that and kind of get, like the litmus test or like a scorecard for where we're at in Templeton. Because if an indicator that one of our departments is not following, you know, sound fiscal processes, that's a problem. We can make recommendations.
And if you also look in the finance handbook, it gives an outline of the different budget approaches. One uses the point that Tony emphasized, and it really makes sense, and I just kinda hard to figure why you wouldn't do it. But using the financial trend and historical data to see over the past 3 years, what departments, where's the spending been? You know, how much have we put in this department, and how much have they had left over at the end of the year, and has that been consistent? The other approach is, the approach that seems to be used currently, is start from scratch, don't look at, you know, last year's, and they give a warning in there of the things that can happen, you know, if you use that approach. We don't have a lot of, you know, say-so over, I mean, we can voice our opinion on it, but whether it amounts to anything being changed, it hasn't worked in the last couple of years.
What has bothered me about this whole budget process is, we used to take and do a line item budget, even though it was rolled up into departments. You would see the different accounts. The only people that can end up changing that is at town meeting. Town meeting has never voted for the budget the way it's been done the last 2 years. Never. And it should have been done by them. The only people that can end up changing it is town meeting. The town administrator can't change it. The selectmen can't change the process. And neither can the advisory committee change it from a line item if it's been done in the past.
So, I think it's really important that there be transparency in data. For us to have the data we need to advise the town, which is what we're charged to, if we're not getting all the data we need, whether it's right or wrong, the perception is we're purposely being not told things, and that makes you wonder why. So I think having transparent, all the boards having transparency in the data that we request should be first and foremost that we need from these other boards, be the TA or the Board of Selectmen.
Also, another interesting thing is in here from, in this town administrator report, has to do with the redesign of the town's website. And there's a thing, let's see,
Yeah, right there.
the design of the virtual towns and schools. If you visit any other town's website, like the suggestion I'm gonna send in is to have mimic the town of Athol and have a sunshine tab, which is all budgetary stuff. There's a little picture of it, it's right there on the front of the town's website, and you click it, and it's all budget stuff. You don't have to go to the town administrator tab and to click here, you don't have to go to the Board of Selectmen, you don't have to go to the town clerk, it's right there, and it's all up front. So it says, please remember to sending us screenshots of anything you've seen out there that you think might be good for our design.
Okay.
So that's just something you can do on your own. But on the agenda for the second, it'd been discussed, requesting if there is a Board of Selectmen policy on control or access to the town's website. And the things that we would like to have on, on our tab. Looking at the financial trends and how we want to approach that. I remember Tony specifically, and we had discussed it, and it sounded like a different approach, maybe different than what we had tried, which was was not received very well, little or any input considered by the Board of Selectmen. We've talked about it, but we didn't really vote and come up with any fiscal year 19 goals, and discuss the items that we would like to put on our tab or our section of the town's website. And I'll try to have some more little background information on the vision thing, how it unfolded and where the communication was. I believe I get the minutes of the meeting and when it happened, the Light Commission, and the presentation, where it was placed in the budget book, and so forth. And if does anyone else have anything else they'd like to have on the agenda? If you don't think of it tonight, you can just send me an email prior to, about.
I don't know how it would, I don't know how we would roll it out, but I would really like, so if, I think we could come up with some pretty solid fiscal goals. Improve stabilization fund, right. But we have to know where we're at, so I think like somehow that checklist, if we're all, if you know what I'm referring to in the handbook,
Okay.
if we can review that,
Okay.
for maybe a discussion, I know it sounds like a workshop style thing, but really to kind of review that as situational awareness, because that could drive our list of goals.
That's one of the reasons why that stabilization document that we have had in the past, has always been the setting point as to where are we
Yeah,
and what are we gonna do to get somewhere else?
yep. Well, on that same, so where we're at scorecard wise, you talk about stabilization, the Selectmen's Board, when they had Odyssey, the gentleman from Odyssey, he was talking about how you build your, yes, and you build that, like some towns will actually have like a stabilization fund for that, so they can weather it and they have a better.
That's right. Yeah.
So those are the kind of things that we can talk about to say, where, instead of just throwing everything into capital planning, everyone gets a new computer, really intelligently look through here and say, what is going to ensure the financial success over the long run? What are our biggest rocks to move? Like the gentleman talked about, we have a lot of retirees. We don't pay in a lot. We're not hurting, but we have a sizable liability. So how can we affect that? Those are the kind of scorecard things that I
And
think we
that's
could
one of
look
the
at.
things with the liability and having an OPEB,
OPEB, I keep forgetting
Right.
the acronym.
having OPEB and having that already set up and basically a plan in place for that weighs in on when you end up going for a bond rating. It's not one of the big hitters, but it is a hitter
Yeah.
for getting a bond rating. And if they see you have a large liability, how are you gonna end up getting out of it? So that's that.
Other post-employment benefits,
Yeah.
so it's everything that they pay into now, but they
Right.
get later, and that the town has to pay for.
Right.
The town has to cover that. One community, actually, they borrowed $1 million, $2 million
Couple $1 million.
bucks to put aside, so they have money to fully cover all of their promises to their retirees and their future retirees for a couple of years. I mean, they borrowed the money, but I guess they thought it was that important to
Well,
have that item funded. And now it's easy I guess it was the quicker and easier way and less chance of, having your pension and
Mhm.
your health insurance stuff cause the town to go upside down financially.
Yeah.
They'll make the loan payment and keep adding to the OPEB, but I guess they thought it was that important to,
So let's come
to
up with
have that fully-
another agenda item, like, sources of revenue. What are the biggest wants, and where are some sources of revenue that we can talk about?
We've had
Like
some.
the guy
some
brought up the
graphs
meals
right.
tax in his.
We've had some graphs in the past that were generated on revenue, on the biggest revenue items,
Yeah.
and tracking it. And there was, and if you look on the MMA website, I believe it's under the finance, there is from the city of Northborough, the administrator in Northborough had a presentation that he did about looking at the different things about your whole financial thing, to take and end up seeing where you're going. And if you look at that, they'll give you some ideas. That's why we, in the past, we actually created some graphs to see where we were. And when we created those graphs, there was a difference of, how did he put it, philosophy?
Yeah.
Different philosophy that we had compared to the TA on projecting revenue. We were more conservative. He is less than conservative, let me say that.
Yeah, we can't keep doing overrides to do all this stuff, because I mean, again, I'm referring to the discussion from the selectmen's meeting, and being smart about revenue doesn't mean that you keep going to your taxpayers.
Right.
And that Laurel,
That's-
I think it was Cameron was talking about the Laurel Circle,
Floral Drive,
Laurel Drive,
right?
Laurel View Road.
Laurel View
Laurel
Road.
View Road,
They're also, I guess, gathered documents, and they're gonna send it off to town council to see where they are with regards to Laurel View. But again, that's
That's what I think the community looks to us for, to say, wow, they really did, an assessment of this, and they came up with another idea for
and there
that.
are ways that you can use public money, that the town, if you have the will and you wanna help those people, the town could take that road. And one way is to have, just like the sewer, do an improvement and betterments. They would be paying,
Mhm.
instead of them putting up the money and doing it themselves.
Right.
They would pay fee to the town, and the town would do it.
Right.
And again,
what that is.
my takeaway was, they were looking for reasons to not help those people.
Right.
Rather than looking for reasons or ways to help them.
Exactly.
And that gets people disillusioned from government.
Yep.
Why do I wanna volunteer for this or this? Cause them people at town hall, they
Right.
don't wanna help us. And them people have been asking for help for a long, long time. And I went out there just the other day and drove that road, and I'm
It's
looking at
terrible.
it, and well, it is, but I mean, it's no worse than the road that I gotta drive down tonight when I go home.
That's a pretty messed up road.
Patridgeville Road, drive down there. You go down to Berry Road, go up South Road, go down on parts of Hubbardston Road. I mean, and I drove around, and I'm looking at it, I'm saying, well, we got a sinkhole right when you turn left off of Hubbardston Road. That needs to be cut out. It's probably a drain pipe or something, and water is undercutting there. That's probably the most expensive fix. I saw the other ones, they got big potholes. I get rid of the sand, and they're not deep potholes, they're just a couple inches and they're wide. I said, that's a coal patch issue, right? I mean, it's
Maybe get
a few
Domino's to do that.
$1,000s. A couple of the structures, I bet if you take the grade off there, it's the concrete and the blocks, and it's not that hard of a fix.
For
It's
them
just-
not to do a hospital road which goes to a nursing home, and it's deplorable, and there's ambulances that go there
Yeah.
and rely on those folks, that's terrible.
Now, there's a new system that's
it's
coming online that'll help them with that for those, Chapter 90
Yep.
pays for that.
Yep.
So I'll
I think
produce
they're
the,
coming online, they're having a new system come online that's gonna help prioritize, assess and then prioritize that, so maybe that's some good news.
I'll list the major revenue sources for the town.
Okay.
Okay.
We'll
Okay.
have the,
For
we'll also
consideration,
include the town financial policy with regards to the checklist, the questions from the
Mhm.
ATFC handbook, and the ones that, you know, we wanna look at and list, which may work towards our goals. Website access, and
Okay.
hopefully we'll have a time to think over.
Yeah, I'll look at the Athol website and come up
Like I
with
said,
some
the
good
one thing I
ideas.
think on there is they have the sunshine page. And the current town administrator, it's only been on there for a few years. But that was one of his ideas,
Yep.
to put it on there. And you can just, everything financial,
Yeah.
you know, and it's a little box in the left-hand side, and I think there's 6 little icon things, and one of them is the sunshine page, and you go boom, and all the financial stuff is on there. You don't have to go looking under another tab or headline. So,
For consideration, I'd like to see some of the things that I sent out during our workshop to see if the folks want to take and end up doing that.
and that was with our goals and roles and things. That would be good things to discuss working up to our meeting with the school committee in October. Um, So you did make one Baldwinville.
Yesterday,
It
yeah,
is
it was really quick.
meeting.
We're gonna tour the facility next Thursday at 5:30.
A fun place.
I hope to be there if I get back in time.
Fun trip. We had a couple selectmen's meetings in the gym there, and I was like, way bigger than Templeton Center and East Templeton, but.
So
Anyways.
that sunshine page, I think we looked at that. Templeton looked, it's cleargov.com. Is that a service that you pay for? I know that the Board of Selectmen went through a finance tool where they came and they got a briefing, like they had the PowerPoint on that
Yeah.
television about that. We can talk about it later, but
Yeah.
it looks like maybe they went for that. I forget how much it cost, but I think it got voted down anyway.
Yeah.
And that's
yes, I
all
think you're right.
information, though, that is already available. Why pay somebody for stuff that you already have?
Yeah, I mean, it's got like cartoon style.
They were actually gonna take all of the data and stuff that you can go to the DOR website or DLS,
Yeah.
and you have to go to different places. What they were gonna do is, they were gonna take all that information, putting into one thing, and it would be specific to Templeton, and then you can go on this website, and it's like alphabetical. It's just, I mean, you already pay taxes to the state to have it on the DLS website. It's, but I think one of the selling points was it would be more up to date, because sometimes you look on the DLS, DOR stuff, and it's like as of 2014, or, 2012. Sometimes the state is a little behind, and this firm, part of the fee that you pay for is they track everything up to date. So if you go look on it, you might see, like right now, you might look at 2017 data. It'd be more time realistic, but it was kind of a little pricey for.
I would say, I would go check out, so it's very interesting because the cleargov.com, it says that Templeton is unclaimed, therefore we don't pay for the service. But look at, so you get there by clicking that sunshine thing on Athol's front page, and then to see all our finances, bring you to ClearGov. Very interesting. Are you looking at it now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it says Templeton is unclaimed. It has the data, but probably you can't drill down the way you can if your community paid for it.
Right.
But maybe that's something we bring back up to the selectmen if it's something like this that can help bridge. I know it's, I don't know how much it costs, but like bridging the gap.
It wasn't
Do
cheap.
you remember that?
And
Oh,
the
you
thing,
remember that,
the thing
okay.
that bothers me about that is all this data is already available on
Yeah.
the state. Why do we pay somebody to take and give us the data that's available free?
That's true.
Right. Well, I think the only reason to pay for that data is to make it something people are gonna stumble upon. Like he did, he went from the Athol page to somewhere else, where we just discussed how people are not looking at websites. They're not going to templeton1.org for whatever reason. Maybe we can maybe people will drive to this, maybe people already visit this. I don't know. I think that would be the only reason to pay for it, though, is if we could get people to look at it more, just for transparency. That's all.
I know, I've seen that.
Yeah, very interesting.
Yeah.
But I also similarly think we could probably achieve the same thing with a appropriately updated Facebook page. Just
Absolutely.
posting over to
Yeah.
Templeton One.
I'd
Here,
be
look
hap-
at this,
I
look at
mean,
this,
I'm
look
good
at
with
this.
PowerPoint. I could come up with something like this super easy.
Yeah. No, it's not hard, and it's nice to know it's here. I think we could provide all this information on the updated website. They're gonna update the town's website. There's no reason we can't provide this sort of information, given access to our tab, which we're supposed to have. There's no reason we can't, provide this for the cost of us volunteering to the town.
Yeah, so you click on the Sunshine and you get the Budget Center, Contract Center, and Data and Reports.
Yes.
Yeah, I
This
clicked
is a
on the
virtual
ClearGov
towns
thing,
and
yeah.
schools website. I mean, virtual towns and schools, that's the site that, the service that the town uses. It's all about how a town designs their website and how easy or how difficult it is to find stuff. So,
Right, the easier it is, the more likely people are to go there.
because if you can.
Nobody
you know,
wants, like you already said, nobody wants to drill down. Go to this tab, then click here, then look for this, and then click here, and then you'll find a page, might not be what you want.
But yeah, it's.
If you look at some of the towns such as Rutland, on their finance thing, they have basically, I think it's either 3 or 4 rows, and you can end up looking at all kinds of documents similar to the ones we have already on ours, and it was a small space, and the same thing for the administrators, selectmen, et cetera, and it's all cross-referenced.
Yeah, it's, like I said, it's, the design is the work that you put into it.
Do we get, I mean, if we're a .org right now, do we get any money from the state if we use a .gov? I mean, are we supposed to be using a .gov? I don't know. I
I
wonder.
forget what the selling point,
A .org seems like something that we would pay for, and a .gov seems like it's something that, you know, we're falling under some kind of
Right.
state construct for
and,
websites.
yeah, I think it was gonna line up easier with the .gov, it's
Yeah.
gonna,
Well, maybe that's the way we're going. I'll take a look.
You'll see that most of them, communities don't do the .gov.
Oh, they don't? Okay, yeah, you're like, so I'm looking at Rutland, and that's a .org. Never mind.
but, anyway, that's one of
Maybe
the
bigger
other
ones.
messages.
Maybe there's an advantage of bigger
Yeah.
towns and cities.
Virtual Towns and Cities is probably one of the biggest organizations as far as websites.
Mm.
They do a large amount of websites for the communities. If you go look at a lot of them, you'll actually see them listed as the provider for that.
Yeah. See, ClearGov, it's what I remembered about that presentation, they will take all of the towns, and it's the information you can find on DLS, but I believe like one of the bigger selling points was it was gonna be really up to date.
Yeah.
You know, cause sometimes you go on a state page and it's, yeah, this is information good as of 2015. The schools, some of the school stuff, you look on the state website, it's a year or almost 2 behind, just the way their budget, that-
Well, one of the things that when I
goes.
went to that seminar a couple months back, they said that they were being more up to date. And if you look at some of the stuff, it was more up to date
they're getting better, but.
than they had in the past. And that they got they have formatted, the state has formatted their documentation for a lot of information differently than what they've had in the past. And they're going in, they got graphs that you couldn't, it's a lot easier to take and go in there, you can actually go into the graphs and see what's there for data. And actually go into the data itself if you don't like the graphs.
All right, I have
You need a motion?
information for agenda, then we'll also do like the minutes, hopefully we'll have, we'll better have a budget versus actual for June, I'll email that to you if we get it next week. And maybe by some miracle, I don't expect it on the second, but it's possible. It could be an end of the year thing, we shall see. So if there's nothing else,
Mr. Chair, I'll float a motion to adjourn for the evening.
Second.
a motion has been floated and second. Any discussion? All those in favor of adjourning, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Meeting is adjourned.
1956.